Dear grade 11 students, welcome and a new English lesson. Our lesson today is reading the Coral Island. At the end of this lesson, students will be able to 1. Speak about personal experience. 2. Schema text for the main idea. 3. Scan the text for specific information. Dear students, you will be given some letters. Try to read the letters and try to form as words as you can. Okay, so we have E, U, V, A, D, T, E, R, N. So, how many words can you form from these letters? Please think well. Pause the video for some time. Get the words ready, then play the video again in order to check some of the given words. Okay, now let's check some words which we can form from the given letters. We can form the words 10, turn, date, run, vid, earn, adventure, van. Very good. Good job. So, dear students, our lesson today will be about a sea adventure story. Now please open a student's book, page 44, exercise A. Reading. Dear students, have you read any stories or novels about a sea adventure before? If yes, please keep seated and tell your teacher and classmates about the story you have read. If you haven't read any stories about sea adventures, please tell us, what do you expect to find in these stories? Please. It's time now to pause the video and tell the classmates and tell your teachers about any stories you have read about a sea adventure. And as we mentioned, if you didn't read any stories about sea adventures before, it's time to tell us about your expectation, what you are going to find in sea adventure story. So, pause the video, keep seated, tell classmates and teacher about the stories, or tell us about your expectations about these stories or novels. After that, play the video in order to discuss the question together. Let's go. Okay, welcome back. So now let's discuss the question together. If you haven't read about sea adventure stories before, I think you would expect to read about violent storm, bad weather conditions, dangerous marine creatures, or about a shipwreck, a remote tropical island, wild animals, hidden treasure, and of course about the pirates. Thank you. Now please open the student's book, page 44, exercise B. Dear students, here's an extract from chapter 1 of an adopted version of the novel The Coral Island. Read the extract quickly. What is the story mainly about? Dear students, now it's time to read the text about the Coral Island. Students' Book, page 44. Dear students, after reading the extract from the Coral Island novel, now it's time to listen to the story from the narrator.
3B. Reading.
The Coral Island. My name is Ralph. I was born into a family of adventurers. My father, grandfather, and great-grandfather were all sea captains who devoted their lives to exploring distant places. I used to love listening to stories about their adventures and would spend hours dreaming about exotic destinations and thrilling adventures on the open sea. When I turned 15, I decided that the time had come to travel to the Pacific. My father, who was a very strict and stubborn man, said I was too young for such a long trip, but I eventually managed to convince him to let me join the crew of a merchant ship called the Arrow. Within a few short weeks, I was on my way to the Coral Islands. I was sad and anxious to leave my parents and the safety of my home, but I was also very excited about the adventures that lay ahead and proud of my newfound independence. I made 2 friends on board the Arrow. Their names were Jack and Peterkin. Jack was a strong young man of 18 who was well-educated and fearless. Peterkin, on the other hand, was an optimistic, amusing, and fun-loving 14-year-old boy. He always made jokes and had a story to tell. For the most part, our journey was peaceful. We experienced some rough weather when we reached Cape Horn, the southern tip of America, but we managed to move on without much difficulty. A few weeks later, we were sailing on the deep waters of the Pacific Ocean. After a long voyage, the Coral Islands finally came into view, and I'll never forget the moment when I first laid eyes on one of those beautiful islands. The stunning white beaches and emerald green palm trees took my breath away. My friends and I were filled with wonder. We were certain we'd found the most beautiful place on Earth. One night, soon after we'd entered the tropics, a tropical storm started. Huge, violent waves beat our ship for almost a week, and during that time, nearly everything was swept off the deck and into the sea, except for one small boat. On the 6th day of the storm, we noticed an island ahead of us. The island was surrounded by a coral reef which protected it from the violent waves. The lagoon, the stretch of water inside the reef, was surprisingly calm. We were going to steer the ship through a narrow gap in the reef, but a powerful wave destroyed our rudder, leaving us helpless against the storm. Our only hope was to lower the boat into the water and row to the shore. But the boat was too small to carry us all to safety, so my friends and I came up with another plan. "The ship is going to hit the reef!" shouted Jack above the roar of the storm. "When it does, the 3 of us will hold on to an oar and jump into the lagoon. Hopefully, we'll end up on the shore." Just then, an enormous wave came crashing onto the deck. The ship struck the coral reef, and some of the members of the crew were thrown into the ocean. Jack, Peterkin, and I grabbed hold of an oar and dived into the water. I must have passed out, because the last thing I remember was the desperate cries of the sailors as the ship was being swallowed up by the sea.
Dear students, after reading the extract from the novel The Coral Island, and after listening to the narrator, let's answer this question. What is the story mainly about? Please pause the video for some time. Get your answer. Ready? After that, play the video again in order to check your answer. Okay, now it's time to check the answer. Of course, you found out that the story is about a boy called Rolf. The boy travels to the Pacific on board of a ship that was called the Arrow, and the ship encounters a violent storm and sinks. Very good. Thank you. Now please open the student's book, page 44, exercise C. Dear students, after reading the extract carefully, it's time to answer the questions A to D. Question number 1. What is true of the narrator of the story? So, pause the video for some time, get your answers ready, then play the video again in order to check your answer. Okay, let's check the answer. The question is, what is true of the narrator of the story? So what you are going to do is to find a bit of information which is correct about the narrator of the story. The answer is letter B. Very good. He traveled to the Pacific at the age of 15. From the story, you can find it here. He mentioned, when I turned 15, I decided that the time had come to travel to the Pacific. Very good. Question number 2. Which statement is true of the tropical storm? Dear students, take care of the word true here. The word true here means that you are given 4 choices. 3 of them are incorrect about the tropical storm, and only 1 is correct. So, you need to get a correct information about the tropical storm. Please pause the video for some time, get your answer ready, then play the video again in order to check your answer. Okay, now let's check the answer. Which statement is true of the tropical storm? The answer is very good. Letter A. It broke out at night. And from the story, we can get the answer. One night, soon after we had entered the tropics, a tropical storm started. Question number 3. When the ship hit the reef, the boys. So, here you need to mention what did the boys do when the ship hit the reef. Pause the video, get your answer ready, then play the video again in order to check your answer. Okay, now it's time to check the answer. The answer is letter B. When the ship hit the reef, the boys jumped into the water, and we can get the answer from the story. The ship struck the coral reef, and some of the members of the crew were thrown into the ocean. Jack, Bittercan, and I grabbed hold of an oar and dived into the water. Question number 4. What is not mentioned in the text? Dear students, not mentioned means that you are given 4 choices. 3 of them are mentioned before in the story, and only 1 which is not mentioned before. So you need to know the one that was not mentioned by the writer of the story. Please, as we always do, pause the video for some time, get your answer ready, play the video again in order to check your answer. Okay, now let's check the answer. The answer is letter D. The number of crew members on board the merchant ship Arrow. From the story, we can get the answer. I eventually managed to convince him to let me join the crew of a merchant ship called the Arrow. Within a few short weeks, I was on my way to the Coral Islands. Dear students, at the end of our lesson, here are some useful reading websites that will develop your reading skill a lot. Please try to make use of them. Dear students, at the end of our lesson, thank you very much for watching. Till we meet again, wish you all the best.